got a pretty excited Aviva Fan Studio from the G Hotel in Galway with a panel full of legends and a brilliant game to get into. How the hell? What the hell just happened?
I'm still shaking, to be honest.
Yeah, wow. That was unbelievable.
Incredible.
Was about 40. I lost count at the end. There were about 40 phases.
I think so. Yeah, it was. Look, I think the big thing is the fight and the big play. It has to be the kick across field. Up to that point, we were static as hell, and
we're all looking at that at the time, going, Jesus, what are you doing? But I mean,
I nearly had my head in my hands. And I was thinking, Jesus. But
I mean, because even the drop goal at the end, you're looking at that, Jenny, going
phenomenal.
It's all on after 40 phases.
We're like, no, stop motion, kind of, and then ecstatic joy.
It's a ballsy play, isn't it? I mean, because you've done all the hard work that's required, Tommy, to get yourself in that position. And then it's all in or nothing.
A quick 22 dropout catch from the 22, and it looked like they were camped on the halfway line. You know, a few big carries to just get them up to that 10-metre line. I mean, what a Sexton! Yeah. That kick will go down in history. Man. Incredible.
Come on!
I don't think it's on the TV, it's hard to tell, but it showed the conditions there, and we probably we mentioned it just before half-time. We forgot to say it up here. The conditions probably dictated a lot, but Jesus, what a kick in those conditions! What a kick!
And the quality of the phases to get us to that stage of the game, John, because it actually, like, through 20 phases, we had just managed to get only to the halfway line. We were retreating a little bit. Maybe that's part of the context that feeds into the ballsiness of the drop goal, because we've had to work to get here. France are, for once in the game, showing some discipline. We're going to have to do something here.
Yeah, and poor old Nigel didn't want to give us that in there in the last couple of minutes. There was definitely a couple there. You could be sending on some footage till your eyes go blue. But yeah, look. Two huge plays out of Sexton. That crossfield kick, we couldn't get out of our 10-metre line. Crossfield kick brings us just inside their 10-metre line, and then, as Tommy says, that carry from Henderson to get us over that line, another one, and then that kick. Oh, phenomenal.
Yeah.
But look, it's like, if you dissect it a little bit, we probably, like we called it at half-time, we didn't really go out to try and win the game. We tried to consolidate our lead.
We spoke about fear at halftime.
Yeah.
It felt like that for a good chunk of it.
Yeah, a little bit. French, like, let's be honest here, they didn't show an awful lot. Conditions obviously dictated quite a bit, but they rely, and it's a bit like the game over there, they rely on individuals, and I said I wouldn't try pronounce his name, but Teddy Thomas as well. We called it before that the two of them have something special. Yeah, you go with us there. They have something special, and he scored out of nothing really. Rob Kearney will be a little bit disappointed. He probably defensively he got 2-on-1 in a situation where he probably could have stayed out, but you make mistakes like that, and thankfully he had his mate in Leinster to help him and get him out of there.
The line was a little bit like, it reminded me of the line about your famous try against Wales, that sort of cutting in, and the gap started to open up, and at that point, when we get into a bit of an analysis of the game now, we were wondering where the hell was the defence had disappeared.
Listen, I think, we talked about fear of losing. I think, that crossfield kick showed that we talked at half-time about how there's going to be key leaders who are going to make decisions, and I think Murray, the pack were unbelievable. Up against those, the front row that came on for France, for them to step up and keep going and keep going forward, and then for Sexton to put that crossfield kick, that takes balls to do that. In such a tight situation.
Very few other players on the planet, I would suggest, would have even considered that kick at that point
and execute it.
Yeah.
It's easy you can try it, but actually to execute it, and Earls to come steaming onto it.
He was cramping 10 minutes before that as well.
Exactly. And then Vakatawa, he could have easily taken him out in the air, yellow card, kick a goal. So they ran the risk. It paid off for them. It looked at one stage, well, it looked pretty much the whole way that they were run out of steam, that eventually France were either going to give away a penalty or something was going to happen. But for Sexton to step up and take the kick, but credit to the forwards, to keep getting up off the ground. That's, John knows better than me. The backs stand out wide, and they maybe took a few of those, but to get up off the ground, take it forward. To get up off the ground, take it forward. When you just think you've nothing left, I think come the video review on Monday, that'll be what Joe will show.
Really,
That's the sort of character that can win a Six Nations.
And the discipline of it, Jenny, as well, like that sort of, at any point over those 40 phases, whatever it was, there could have been a little knock on, a slight bit of indiscipline, given the fear that we'd spoken about maybe for the previous half hour, but to nail it out was phenomenal.
Oh, it was absolutely phenomenal. I'm like, if I was wearing a heart rate monitor right now, I'd be going all over the place. No, like, and it was a team effort in that, like, Vakatawa made a cracking line, and it was Sexton who fronted up and absolutely smashed them to the deck. This was about 20-30 minutes into the second half. And then for Sexton to miss a kick that he would have been fairly confident, and we all would have been fairly confident of slotting over, and then to kind of blank that out and put it away and execute those two cracking kicks when, you know, the stakes were at their highest. That's a gutsy performance, and it just shows to go how much of he's a world-class player. And yeah, that was relief in the room.
I mean, it's a good point, absolutely. Yeah. Because I think, like, Sexton had missed the kick, and actually Earls had been the guy who a few minutes earlier had knocked it on when he really shouldn't have done it. And for the two of them to have played such a key role in that final movement was phenomenal. I'd been working through what the talking points would be, and I wrote them up about 3 minutes before the end. What went wrong?
Nothing.
It all went absolutely perfectly. Let's forget about that. I wonder, like, it just when Joe Schmidt gets into that review, John, during the week, I mean, I'm sure he's going to lean on, in the context of being now in the middle of a tournament and needing that momentum. I don't know how much he sort of flagellates the lads for the previous part, but I presume he's leaning fairly heavily on that last 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah, the first game is always the most difficult because, as Tommy said earlier, I think he said it's about building momentum and about getting the series of runs, and you win your first game automatically. You put yourself ahead of the rest, and it becomes very difficult to win something when you've lost your first game in the Six Nations. And when you see, and no disrespect to Italy, when you see Italy up next week, it's probably worked out the best it could be. And Italy will probably come out now tomorrow and win, and I'll look like a fool, but Italy will cause problems to teams as they go along, but Italy actually, to totally contradict myself, Italy are always very good the first 2 weeks, and if they get a bit of a beating, they tend to get worse as the series goes on. But French teams are the opposite. If they go well at the start, they'll always take a game or two to get going. So to meet France now, to have Italy next week before we come into the break, is a very, very good point for us. But it's all about winning. I think Joe will take those last couple of minutes. He'll show the character. He'll show the discipline and everything it took to get to that opportunity to win the game. And they'll obviously review, but that will be the main factor. And then it'll be about winning next week, getting your bonus point against Italy, and then go into the break. And look, you've given yourself a lifeline by pulling it out of the bag, and they'll take massive confidence out of that. Like I said to you before, France today was a lose-lose situation. No one expected much out of France. New coach, young out half, etc., etc. You don't beat them, it's obviously you lose. It's bad. You don't beat them enough, it's a bad situation. If you beat them too much, they're shit. So it's is it the watershed yet? Sorry. So it is a lose-lose situation. Obviously, they've pulled it out of the bag, so we're all feeling happy now. But we probably shouldn't have been in that situation to begin with. But look, we've all been there. It would have been a lot worse if we were leaving here tonight without a win. So it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
I mean, we've done an All Blacks, Tommy, to all intents and purposes, like they on an largely off day, pull it out of the fire.
Yeah, listen, Joe will show there were a lot of mistakes there. There were a lot of things that didn't go right that probably let France back into the game. But again, what we were talking about, that character at the end of the game is what the boys will come in on Monday on a high. You know, despite what went wrong, but they pulled it out, they stuck together, and it's that character that galvanizes a team, and it's that, you know, there's small things like that kind of turn in your favour that can build. And I think that, you know, if they build on that as week goes on, as each week goes on, you know, it can really start to ramp up. You know, if they had won marginally and you know, given the disappointing performance, then like the boys would have come in on Monday to be a bit kind of fearful of the review. But I think to win the way they did, I think that really set them on a great trajectory, and it's going to be an exciting Six Nations ahead.
What were the key things that you spoke about? Some of the things that went wrong. What were the things that stood out for you in terms of fixes now going forward?
Listen, I think it was always going to be difficult. They were up against a French team they didn't know much about, but I think some of the set piece didn't go the way they would have liked it. I think some of the plays, some of the mistakes, they showed early on that when they stuck to a good pattern and got outside the French team, there was lots of space out there. They didn't really execute a lot of their game plan to be able to do that, I thought, through the majority of the game. But, listen, over there, it's always a difficult place to play, and I think they come away with the win. Happy days.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I presume we're going to see changes, Jenny. I mean, that was probably always going to be part of the plan with Italy next up, that some of those fringe players we mentioned before the game, that maybe they're going to get a chance now.
Yeah, I imagine so. Myself and John were talking earlier about like the likes of, like Ty Furlong, he put in a serious amount of hits. And obviously, when you're in the front three and you're playing over 65 minutes, that's going to wear you down. So hopefully we'll see maybe playing shorter bursts next week and then send on that subs a little bit earlier, give them a bit of experience. As well as that, maybe might mix it up a bit. We might see Larmer maybe on the bench to come on. But again, I think they'll probably stick with the same centre partnership, just get that to gel a little bit more. But as well as that, I think even though we didn't really know a lot about that French team coming into the game, I think even though it can be said that a lot of French teams, when they get a loss, it can really affect them and it just kind of teeters out and they kind of, that's it, they're kind of done and dusted. But that's a young side. I think they'll bounce back, and next 2 or 3 games they'll grow and they can take a lot of positives from that. And there was obviously a lot of discipline issues there, and if that gets tidied up, I think they can get results in this tournament.
LJ Keegan on Facebook, John suggests that do you think Joe will have to come up with something to win the Six Nations? He suggests England would have us for breakfast.
Oh, I don't think so. I think, as I said earlier, the first game is always the hardest. You're together for a couple of days over Christmas. You're together all last week. Obviously, they were away in Portugal or Spain or somewhere. It's
Spain,
difficult. Yeah. It takes a bit of time, and they'll get better next week. I think, as I said, playing Italy next week, give them a little bit of confidence. Hopefully, get a good result, and then into Wales. And it's setting up, as Tommy said, to be a cracking Six Nations. And I don't think England have a lot of injury worries in key positions as well. So I wouldn't be writing us off just yet, and I wouldn't be singing from the top of the rooftops about England just yet. They've a bit to prove themselves, and they have a lot of injuries in key positions. I don't think that the quality underneath what they're missing is really as good as they think they are.
Everybody able to breathe now? Sort of heart rate has kind of come back to normal a small bit. Jenny, I wanted to talk to you as well a little bit about the game later on tonight. 8 o'clock, I think, Irish time in Toulouse. Ireland against France again, so we get the heart rate back up again for that. But a lot of changes on this Irish setup after the last while. Some key players no longer there, obviously. Some of them on mini sabbaticals, it seems. But a few changes. New coach, change at out half as well. It's a sort of a clean slate almost for this Irish team now.
Yeah, I think after a World Cup, there's always a transitional period. A lot of those experienced players in key positions. You got like Nora Stapleton at out half, stepping away. Aya Sheegan, tight head prop, who's been, cornerstone for the Irish women's team for years now, as well as some other fantastic players. So it's France away, and as I mentioned before, in the south of France, that's a seriously tough ask. But it's a good chance to kind of step up and kind of put your hand up for selection going throughout the Six Nations. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be tough. France have got a few key injuries as well. They're definite underdogs going down to Toulouse. But again, that's a tag that we sometimes like. And they just go out and put a performance. I think a lot. If they can stand a wave of French attack in the first 25 minutes, a lot can change. Just looking forward to kind of seeing them get out there and do the business. You were talking a bit earlier on and off the ball on the radio about Niamh Briggs moving into 10 and the challenges that comes with, and her first Six Nations start, I think, for 2 years maybe. But she has some experience playing 10. Yeah, obviously people would normally associate Briggs being in that full-back position where she's it's her preferred choice. But she has slotted in there. She throughout the campaign of 2012 and the early stages of 2013, she was in that fly half position. So she's not completely inexperienced there. She's a good distributor of the ball, and obviously to use her boot early in the game and to be kind of right in the middle of it, I guess, is going to be useful for us. And with the likes of someone like Sene Neupu on the outside of her, who can easily fit in and slot into that first receiver position, I think they'll combine quite well and help each other out. So it's just, I think once we get through the first 25 minutes unscathed, this can be a good game.
When are you going back?
Haven't decided yet. Like, I'll work on play club at the moment, and then we'll see. At the moment, there's no summer test or November test. It'd be great if there was. But at the moment, it's looking like the next games that the girls are going to have after March will be Six Nations. Obviously, I'd love to go back a little bit earlier, but if that's the case, that's the case.
Or represent Ireland in boxing, apparently.
That's not happening. That's pure fitness. I'll get my face boxed in rugby, but not in a ring.
Good stuff. Well, listen, best of luck. Kick off tonight at 8 o'clock, and we look forward. Hope we can do the double. That would be pretty good. Some other comments coming through on the hashtag Aviva Fan Studio here, including this one for you, Tommy, from Brian Cairns. How did Tommy avoid injury while filming that travel show?
You missed that. It was cut short. I tripped on the beach.
That's as much as we're going to get out
Brian.
of it. That's fine. Joining us next week at the Aviva Fan Studio, when we are back at the Aviva Stadium for Ireland against Italy, as the Grand Slam tour continues, right?
Hey.
Is going to be, what did we call him earlier? The purist, Willie the Purist Brennan, who stuck to his guns with his half-time, calling the game intriguing. And he showed us in the end it bloody well was. So that's pretty much it from us for the minute. Thanks a million for our amazing live audience here in the G Hotel in Galway. Thanks a million. And thanks a million to Aviva for putting on an amazing show. We'll be back again with you across all the Off the Ball social channels next Saturday for that Ireland-Italy game. And that's pretty much it. Thanks a million for coming. Tommy Bowe, everybody.
Cheers, thank you.
Jenny Murphy.
Thank you.
John Muldoon. Thanks a million, guys. Thanks a lot for coming to play us out. They've made their way all the way over from the Aran Islands, lads, I believe. Is that right?
Oh, nice. Just one of us.
Good stuff. It's Rafi James, everyone.
Is there a reason why you had to go? Is there a reason why you left it all behind? Is there a reason why I should have known? Is there a reason why I should have known the signs? 'Cause I know you had suffered a life, and I know you will never realize that you leave behind. 'Cause it's now that the sky is falling, now that the sky is falling on top of me now, on top of me now. 'Cause it's now that the leaves are falling, now that the world comes tumbling down. It's falling around me now. 1 and 2 and even 3. Why did they have to go and leave it all behind? And I know, forget your smile, 'cause I know you will always be around whenever I'm feeling down. 'Cause it's now that the sky is falling, now that the sky is falling on top of me now, well, on top of me now. 'Cause it's now that the leaves are falling, now that the world comes tumbling down. It's falling around me now. Ooh. sky is falling on top of me now, well, on top of me now. 'Cause it's now that the leaves are falling, now that the world comes tumbling down. It's falling around me now. It's the reason why you had to go. It's the reason why you left it all behind. It's the reason why I should have known. It's the reason why I should have known. It's the reason why I should have known.